Amelia, have you ever heard of Edouard Christophe Philippe Gérard Renaldi?
No.
He was the Crown Prince of Genovia.
The Princess Diaries is one of those films that just stuck with people because it was funny, heartfelt, and carried that dreamy idea of an ordinary girl suddenly finding herself royalty. Anne Hathaway's breakout performance as Mia Thermopolis made the whole thing so memorable, and to this day it still feels like one of the best teen dramas of the early 2000s. The original film got glowing reviews, pulled in impressive box office numbers, and became a cultural touchstone for a whole generation. So when Disney finally confirmed The Princess Diaries 3, fans were thrilled. But if the third movie really wants to hit home, it needs to face something that's been brushed aside since the beginning: Mia's friendship with Lily and how it wasn't always as wholesome as it looked. From the moment Mia discovered she was a princess, people came out of the woodwork with all sorts of agendas. The press wanted to humiliate her, classmates like Lana wanted to bully her, and politicians in Genovia wanted to manipulate her for their own schemes. But Mia wasn't without support. Her grandmother Clarisse, her mom, and her driver/bodyguard Joe always had her back. They gave her the grounding she desperately needed when life suddenly got overwhelming. That's why it felt especially noticeable when one of the closest people to her, her supposed best friend, Lily, wasn't as supportive as she should have been. That's why it felt especially noticeable when one of the people closest to her, her supposed best friend, Lily, wasn't always as supportive as she should have been. And if The Princess Diaries 3 wants to do justice to Mia's story, it has to finally shine a light on this dynamic. Because here's the thing: while Lana and her clique were obviously villains, Lily was a lot more complicated. On the surface, she was supposed to be Mia's ride-or-die friend, the one person who would stick up for her no matter what. But if you really think about it, there were plenty of moments in the first film where Lily acted more like a bully than a bestie. Take that scene when Mia confided in her about her father's death. Instead of offering comfort, Lily brushed it off by saying, "Hey, I thought you got over that. It's been 2 months." That's not the kind of empathy you'd expect from someone who claims to care. Then later, when Mia went through her big makeover, instead of cheering her on, Lily got jealous and criticized how she looked. Mia was already battling insecurity, so her closest friend's digs probably stung more than anything Lana could say. Of course, Lily may not have thought she was being cruel. Maybe she genuinely believed she was being honest or helpful, but the reality is she rarely paused to consider how Mia felt, and her bluntness often came across as dismissive. Instead of building Mia up, she chipped away at her confidence. And even when they patched things up, it wasn't because Lily truly reflected on her toxic behavior. It was more because Mia turned out to be a princess, and suddenly Lily wanted back in. That left a pretty big elephant in the room. The films never addressed how hurtful Lily could be, and pretending it didn't matter undermined the idea of growth in their friendship. So if the third movie wants to feel fresh and relevant, it should finally tackle this. Heather Matarazzo, who played Lily, has said she'd be willing to return to the role if Anne Hathaway and Julie Andrews are on board. That already makes her involvement a strong possibility because those two are basically the heart of the franchise. And honestly, it wouldn't be hard to write Lily back in. She's always been passionate about social causes, so the idea of her coming to Genovia as an activist or even working within Mia's government feels natural. In fact, given her bold personality, Lily could actually thrive in that kind of role. Imagine her channeling her firebrand energy into real political change. It would be both entertaining and fitting. But if she does return, the movie can't just pretend she was always the perfect best friend. It has to confront her flaws head-on, because otherwise the audience will see right through the sugarcoating. The good news for The Princess Diaries 3 is that Disney now has proof people are hungry for legacy sequels. Just look at the success of Freakier Friday, which hit theaters this summer and made over $43 million despite stiff competition. It's been performing so well that many are speculating about sequels and spin-offs, even though the ending didn't tease one. What that really signals, though, is that audiences are willing to revisit early 2000s favorites, especially if the movies give them nostalgia with a modern twist. That's exactly why The Princess Diaries 3 feels like Disney's next big move. If Free Year Friday can thrive, so can Mia Thermopolis' long-awaited return. It's also about timing. The last installment, The Princess Diaries 2 Royal Engagement, came out in 2004. That's more than enough time for nostalgia to set in, but not so much time that people have forgotten what made the film special. And unlike some properties that may struggle to attract audiences today, The Princess Diaries has Anne Hathaway. She's just as popular now as she was when the first movie made her a star, maybe even more so. Her career has only skyrocketed with huge blockbusters, critically acclaimed indies, and even an Oscar under her belt. She's also attached to big upcoming projects like The Devil Wears Prada 2 and Verity, which means she's very much in the public eye again. Bringing her back as Mia would be a guaranteed draw at the box office. What's more, it's not just Hathaway who's interested. John Rhys Davies, who played the scheming Viscount Mabry in The Princess Diaries 2, has openly said he'd love to return. His character tried to manipulate his nephew Nicholas into seizing the throne and nearly caused a scandal that could have ruined Mia. Even though his plot was exposed, the movie didn't fully close the door on his story. Rhys Davies himself suggested Mabry should have aimed even higher, like becoming Prime Minister, and hinted that he'd enjoy working with Chris Pine again. Pine, who played Nicholas, has also expressed enthusiasm about returning, even joking that people should call Disney and Bob Iger to make it happen. That kind of willingness from beloved actors only adds fuel to the fire. Of course, the third movie can't just recycle the same old conflicts. With Mia now officially queen after her coronation at the end of the second film, the story is naturally set to shift focus. Some fans believe a new character might take on the role of the titular princess, allowing Mia to serve as a mentor or guiding figure. Still, bringing back familiar faces like Lily, Nicholas, and even Mabry would help tie the new generation to the old, giving audiences a sense of continuity. And in that mix, addressing Lily's flaws could provide some of the most compelling drama. Friendships, after all, can be just as complicated and messy as romances or political schemes, and exploring that truth would make the film resonate even more. It's easy to forget sometimes that The Princess Diaries was never just about a fairy tale. Sure, it had makeovers, balls, and plenty of wish fulfillment, but at its heart, it was a story about a girl growing up and figuring out who she was. That meant facing the good, the bad, and the ugly in her relationships. Ignoring Lily's toxic behavior might have worked in the early 2000s when audiences were mostly focused on the charm and comedy, but today's viewers expect more nuance. They want characters to grow and friendships to be realistic, even if that means showing some cracks. If the third movie gives us that honesty, it could elevate the whole trilogy. So while Disney has plenty of directions it could take with The Princess Diaries 3, one thing feels clear. It can't just skate past the uncomfortable truths anymore. Lily was not always the friend Mia needed, and pretending otherwise would feel like a missed opportunity. Addressing that head-on while still celebrating the strong bond they eventually built would strike the right balance between nostalgia and maturity. It would remind fans why they fell in love with these characters in the first place, while also giving the story the depth it deserves. In the end, bringing back Mia Thermopolis after all these years isn't just about crowns, gowns, or Genovia's parliament drama. It's about revisiting the journey of a girl who learned to stand tall, even when the people closest to her sometimes let her down. And if Disney can capture that truth, The Princess Diaries 3 might just be the sequel fans have been waiting for all along. And that's that for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.